earlier today, Super Saturday Live began on the Gold Coast, and it was the Suns who held on at People First Stadium to beat Melbourne by 19 points. So the Suns back in the 8 with a game in hand. Melbourne were coming off the bye, and it looked like they were still on the bye in the first quarter. I mean, they were completely absent in the first term, trailed by 36 points at quarter time. Could have been a hell of a lot worse if Gold Coast had a kick straight as well, but that slow start, that ended up costing them, really. Yeah,
and they dump-kicked the ball out of their back line. They just looked like they didn't have the energy to get an overlap game going or a run-and-gun game going. And it just meant that the Suns could control the game in the forward half. 21 inside 50s to 6. John Noble was terrific early. His decision-making processes to find easy, attainable, hittable targets, they just won the ball back with ease. And I just wonder, you know, what do Melbourne, firstly, what do Melbourne do? Do they go young? And if you go young, do you trust young? Because it doesn't seem to me like they're going hand in hand at the moment. They're picking some young players but not giving them marquee roles. And the Suns just made them look silly.
They're also dropping young players as well. Caleb Windsor goes out of the side. But like, they gave up 28 different uncontested marks in that first quarter. Minus 27 uncontested possessions, minus 6, minus 11 in tackles. So you've had 30 less possessions and you've had 11 less tackles. That just comes down to effort more than anything else, and it's structurally or anything like that, just effort.
They did get blown away out of the middle of the ground early. And there's some big names: Petrarca, Oliver. That would have been, Pickett. It was absolute smashing early. So that will be frustrating. You wonder whether, to your point, Kingy, whether Simon Goodwin looks to change up that mix a little bit, because that was their 4th straight loss. They needed to be mentally switched on, and that didn't look like it was the case. So that midfield mix might get rotated a little bit.
We've talked about this, though. This is a conversation 4 or 5 weeks ago.
It is.
This was a team that wasn't going to be challenging preliminary final week, grand final week. So you're resetting on the run. You've got to give marquee roles to players like Langford and Lindsay. Windsor, when he's right, he's not quite 100% at the moment. When you come to the centre bounce opportunities, that's where you want to start them. They stick with Petrarca, Oliver and Viney all the time. It's those three for the lion's share of centre bounces throughout the course of the year. And Pickett's gone in there in the recent sort of 6 to 8 weeks and been outstanding. But they've got to get 20 opportunities to Langford instead of 2. They gave up on that way too quick. That's not just Simon, that's the coach's box. Not trusting the young fella to go in and do the job. They've got to be better than that as a match committee.
It was round 6 when we were begging for Cozzy Pickett to actually go into the middle. And I don't think he'd had nearly any centre bounce action before that. Comes in, dominates. You just can't go, oh, well, we fixed that with Cozzy Pickett. They have to. You only get the 2 hours of proper game time against the oppo. Now, that's valuable, so valuable for the young midfield of Melbourne, or the young midfield we think should be playing in there, to actually get in there and ply their trade against. Look, just imagine if Langford goes against Rowell for 2 hours today and gets to ply his trade and learn from Rowell or Anderson playing in there and go, well, this is setting yourselves up for the next 5, 10 years with a potential A-grade midfielder.
And Petrarca, 32 possessions, but only 56% disposal efficiency. Was a bit wayward there.
Damien Hardwick's body language was quite telling in the 4th quarter. You could tell he was frustrated with where the game was going. How did you read that and the Suns' performance, and just a bit shaky in that final term?
Yeah, I think he would be worried about it. Like, Jake Melksham kicks 5 goals 6 today. So they're 19-point victors, but there's opportunities there, and I think the term came last year. I won't say it verbatim what he said, but he's asking for his team to grow up. And I reckon there's still a few teething issues at the moment for the Gold Coast, just to grow up and become that side that is clinical in the back part of games, in the back part of this season. It's been their Achilles heel for a period of time pre-Damien Hardwick, and now he's obviously at that football club. But they just need to continue to learn. Last
quarters are a problem for them. They seriously are. And I'm not sure whether it's to do with the game style, whether it's still go or not, but you can see there since round 9, 14th in the competition for score differential. So they leave you in the game. The door, you feel, is always ajar against the Suns. We've seen them run down, over the last month.
Week.
Yeah, the last month it's happened. So I'm just worried that this is a problem that they haven't rectified just yet. I think they've won 2 of their last 7 last quarters. So there's something here that they need to get right if they're to be a factor in the pointy end.
Yeah, it starts to become a mental edge for opposition teams, doesn't it? Let's hear from both coaches post-game.
Our 80% is very good. Our 20%, needs work, if that makes sense. When we're in that 20% mode, we have too many errors that actually just cost us goals. Like, you know, I thought our dominant was as good as it was. Like, we should have been 10 goals up, I think, at three-quarter time, personally. And unfortunately, when you let an experienced side such as Melbourne, they've got a really good midfield, really smart players, they can get a run on, and that's what happened in the end. And we just didn't play. We just didn't play our style of game. We sort of just let the game unfold the way it did, and it was a disappointing finish. But game of AFL footy is pretty tough. You've got to celebrate the wins, they're hard to come by, so we'll acknowledge that we won the game, but we've got some work on, absolutely.
You sit here with mixed emotions as a senior coach. Like, that first quarter was, you know, unacceptable, you know, in terms of our ability to win the ball, our ability to pressure the ball, our ability to get our hands on the ball. And, you know, Gold Coast were unbelievable, but we were miles off early in the game, and clearly that was the game. You know, at quarter time, you're 37-1 down, you probably could have been more down. But, you know, and then you sit here, you know, for the last three quarters, really proud of the group. You know, the grit, 2 players down with concussion, the ability to fight, get the game back with pressure, contest, you know, effective ball use inside 50. And you see your team grow. But, you know, you walk away again with a disappointing result in an outcome-based sport. It's frustrating.
Certainly would be for Melbourne at the moment, but this game was pretty entertaining as well with the feeling in it. However, that leads us to our MRO incidents.
Yeah, a bit of spite in this and some major incidents. So there's 3 in total. I think we might have a look at the Stephen May one first. So he comes in and clips Brayden Ainsworth. When you slow it down, there is contact to the head, but maybe just careless and low impact. Does give him a decent whack, so he might be lucky to escape with a fine there. Stephen May, he'll say that was a decent contest on the ball, so he'll be hopeful to play Adelaide next week. What do you think, boys? Is that clumsy, deliberate or not?
Clumsy, yeah.
And let's move to Fiorini here, who comes in on Harrison Petty's concussed. He will miss the game against Adelaide. So Petty's in a vulnerable position, head over the ball. Fiorini turns. Now, when you slow it down, they put their hands on the ball at about the same time. So this is a really tricky one for the MRO, and they might be conservative and say, look, Fiorini hands on the ball, genuine contest, might be play on, but that is really tricky when it's split second. Oh, conservatively, I think he might be okay, because he does turn his body, Fiorini, and put his hands in the foot and put his hands on the Sharon. It's hard to sort of tell from that angle, so I think he might be okay, but this is
poor technique by Petty.
A bit of a 50-50. Yes, you see there, they reach down for the footy at the same time.
It's the same as the Chera discussion.
What do you want Fiorini to do there? What do you want him to do? He turns with the right technique and puts his hands on the Sharon.
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand your point.
Like, if anything, Petty's got the wrong technique.
Yeah, no, I know he's got the wrong technique, but...
Look, their hands on the ball at the same time.
Yep, I understand your point.
Hands on the ball at the same time.
Yeah, but we're asking players... I'll be honest, we're asking players to assess that fractionally differently, aren't we now?
What do you think?
Well, I think we're asking players to have care for themselves, the body of the group of players, to not spear in at speed. That's what I think we're asking him. Now, you can have your opinion on whether that's right or wrong.
Yep.
But that's the same as the Chera discussion. It's close to top of the head, which is awful trauma.
The question I'll ask is, was Fiorini unreasonable in the circumstances? Because Petty hadn't already taken possession, that might be the out. But this is a 50-50.
We're having a lot of concussions.
Well, that was a bad one too. The knee buckle after it as well, sickening.
You can't take all contact out of the game.